My name is Claire Whitmore. I'm 30 years old. And about a year ago, I learned that the people who were supposed to protect me had quietly built a plan to destroy my life and expected me to thank them for it. My younger sister didn't just steal my identity. My parents helped her do it. Together they racked up $89,000 in loans under my name. When I confronted them, my mom folded her arms, looked me straight in the eye, and said something I will never forget. Your sister needed the money more than you. Then my father leaned back in his chair and calmly added, if you report it, we'll tell the police you gave her permission. So I didn't go to the police. Not right away. I went somewhere much worse for them. But before I tell you where that was, take a second to like and subscribe if you enjoy stories like this. And drop your city and local time in the comments. I always love seeing where everyone is listening from. Now let me take you back 15 months. To the night I signed the piece of paper that gave my sister everything she needed to become me. It was 10:42 p.m. on a Monday night. I was sitting in the break room of Mercy Regional Hospital in Cedar Falls, Iowa, halfway through a 12-hour shift. My phone rang. Mom. That alone was unusual. My mother, Diane Whitmore, never called that late unless something was wrong. I stepped into the hallway and answered. Her voice cracked immediately. Claire, honey, we might lose the house. That was all it took. My parents had lived in the same small ranch house for 32 years. The place where my sister and I grew up. Dad had worked construction his entire life until a back injury forced him into early retirement. Mom worked part-time at a craft store. Money had always been tight. What happened? I asked. The mortgage company is refusing to refinance, she said. Your father's credit, you know how it is. I did know. Dad's credit score hovered somewhere around 540. Missed payments. Medical bills. Old debts. What do you need from me? I asked. Just your name on a temporary loan, she said. Just until we stabilize things. She added quickly. I would never ask if there was another option. And because she was my mother, I believed her. I drove 3 hours the following Saturday. The moment I walked into their kitchen, I noticed something strange. My sister, Madison, was already there. Madison was 26, 4 years younger than me, and somehow always the center of attention in every room she entered. She hugged me like we hadn't seen each other in years. Big sis to the rescue, she joked. I forced a smile. Madison worked in marketing, which mostly meant posting inspirational quotes on Instagram and calling herself an entrepreneur. But that day she was strangely organized. Laptop open. Papers stacked. Printer humming. Mom told me you'd help, she said. I already printed everything. She slid several documents toward me. Loan paperwork. Authorization forms. Verification pages. Just standard stuff, Madison said casually. You know how banks are. I signed them. Every page. Name. Address. Social security number. Employer information. Salary verification. Everything a person would need to become me on paper. 3 days later, I forgot about it. Because life moved on. Hospital shifts. Night calls. Weekend overtime. I checked my credit score the first of every month like clockwork. 783. Perfect. 6 years of careful budgeting. Every payment on time. Every card under 20% utilization. I had one goal. A small house. Nothing fancy. Just something modest with a yard. My savings account had $31,000 in it. Enough for a down payment. Everything was finally falling into place. Or at least, that's what I thought. 10 months later I walked into First Midwest Bank to apply for my mortgage pre-approval. I had rehearsed the moment in my head for years. The loan officer's name was Daniel Carter. Nice guy. Probably mid-40s. Family photo on his desk. 2 kids and a golden retriever. He pulled up my file and started typing. Then he stopped. He stared at the screen for a long time. Too long. That moment where the air in a room changes. Ms. Whitmore, he said carefully. Did you recently open any new credit accounts? No, I said. He turned the monitor toward me. 487. I stared at the number. My brain refused to process it. That can't be right. Daniel scrolled down. 4 credit cards. 3 personal loans. 1 auto loan.
He paused.
Total outstanding balance, $89,200.
The room went silent. My hands started shaking.
I didn't open any of those.
Do you know who might have? The answer was already forming in my chest, but saying it out loud would make it real. So instead I asked one question.
When were the accounts opened?
Daniel clicked through the records.
Over the last 10 months.
My stomach dropped.
Starting 3 days after a loan authorization was submitted with your information.
3 days. 3 days after I signed those papers in my parents' kitchen. I drove home in silence.
The printed credit report sat on the passenger seat like evidence in a crime scene.
I didn't call the police. I called my mother. She answered on the second ring.
Claire, honey.
I told her everything. The bank. The debt. The accounts. The $89,000. When I finished, the line went quiet. Not surprise quiet. Waiting quiet. Then she said something that made my blood run cold.
Madison told me you agreed to help.
I froze.
What? She said you knew she was using your credit.
I never said that. My mother sighed. Like I was the difficult one.
She needed the money more than you, Claire.
More than me. My hands tightened around the phone.
She stole my identity.
Don't say that word, Mom snapped.
She's your sister.
I hung up. Then I called my father. He answered slowly. I explained everything again. The silence lasted several seconds. Then he said exactly what my mother had warned me about.
If you go to the police, we'll tell them you gave her permission.
The words sounded rehearsed. Scripted. Like someone had already written them down. That was the moment I realized something terrifying.
This wasn't a mistake.
It was a plan.
Within 2 weeks, the narrative in town had already changed.
My mother was faster than I expected. She called relatives, church friends, neighbors, everyone. The story she told them was simple.
Claire's under a lot of stress from work. She's accusing Madison of things that aren't true.
We're worried about her. Suddenly people looked at me differently.
The grocery store cashier asked if I was doing okay.
My aunt suggested therapy.
And Madison posted a picture of the 2 of us from Christmas with the caption, "Family always sticks together."
32 likes. 7 heart reactions. My mother commented,
"My girls forever."
That's when I realized something else. This wasn't just about money. This was about control. About protecting the image of the perfect family.
Even if it meant destroying one of the daughters.
And that's when I stopped trying to fix things quietly.
Because if they wanted to control the story,
I was going to choose the audience.
And my sister was about to walk into the worst possible room to deliver the speech my parents wrote for her.
She just didn't know it yet.
Wrong room. The first person who didn't call me crazy was someone I hadn't spoken to in 8 years.
My aunt.
My mom's younger sister.
Her name was Laura Bennett.
And in our family, her name was practically forbidden. Growing up, my mother always described her the same way. Laura likes drama. She tears families apart.
She lies. So eventually everyone stopped inviting her to holidays. Birthdays. Thanksgiving. Christmas.
Just erased.
But the night after my parents threatened me, I kept thinking about something. People don't get erased unless they say something someone wants hidden. So I called her. The phone rang 5 times.
Just when I thought she wouldn't answer, a voice came through.
Hello. Aunt Laura, it's Claire. There was a pause. A long one. Then she let out a soft breath.
I wondered when you'd finally call.
My stomach tightened. You knew this would happen. Oh, honey, she said quietly.
I've been waiting 15 years. Laura told me something that completely rewired how I saw my family. 15 years earlier, my mom had taken out credit cards in Laura's name.
Not a lot. About $6,000 total.
But when Laura confronted her, Mom did exactly what she was doing to me now.
She told everyone Laura was unstable, jealous, trying to ruin the family.
Within a month, Laura was cut out completely.
My grandfather believed my mother.
The church believed her.
Even my dad took Mom's side.
Laura moved to Kansas City and never came back. You're telling me my mother has done this before, I said.
More than once, Laura replied.
She just got better at hiding it.
My chest felt hollow.
Why didn't anyone say anything?
Laura laughed. Not in a happy way.
Because your mother doesn't protect family, she said. She protects the image of family. And anyone who threatens that image becomes the villain.
Then she asked the question that changed everything.
Do you have proof? I looked down at the printed credit report sitting on my kitchen table.
Not yet.
Then start collecting it.
The next 3 weeks became my second full-time job. During the day I worked hospital shifts. At night I built a case. First step was freezing my credit with all 3 bureaus. Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. No new accounts could be opened under my name again.
Then I filed an official identity theft report with the Federal Trade Commission.
It took about 40 minutes online. When I finished, I had a case number. A digital paper trail. Something my mother couldn't talk her way around. Then came the most important step. Requesting the original loan applications.
3 lenders responded within 2 weeks. They sent scanned copies of the documents used to open the accounts.
And the moment I saw them, I knew. The signatures weren't mine. They weren't even close.
My handwriting is small and tight from years of charting patient records. The signatures on the loan applications were big.
Curved. Confident.
Exactly like the birthday cards Madison had written me every year growing up.
It was her handwriting. Clear as day. But that wasn't even the worst part.
One of the applications listed my employer. Except it didn't list Mercy Regional Hospital.
It listed something else. Hawthorne Realty Group.
Which would have been strange. Except Hawthorne Realty was where Madison used to work.
Until 2 years earlier. When she got fired. For failing to disclose structural damage in a house she sold.
The buyer sued. The state real estate board suspended her license.
But nobody in the family knew that. Because Madison begged me to keep it secret.
I had protected her reputation for 2 years.
While she quietly destroyed my credit.
3 days later an invitation arrived in the mail.
Cream-colored envelope. Gold lettering.
You are cordially invited to celebrate the 40th wedding anniversary of
Diane and Robert Whitmore. Saturday evening. Dinner and speeches. Hosted at the Lakeview Ballroom.
Guest list, family, friends, church members, neighbors.
Nearly 60 people. My phone buzzed about an hour after I opened the invitation. Madison.
You're coming, right? She asked brightly. Mom really wants the whole family there.
Her voice was warm. Friendly. Like nothing had happened. Of course, I said. Oh good, she replied.
I'm giving a speech about family values.
Family values. I almost laughed. Can't wait, I said. And hung up. Then I called Aunt Laura.
They invited me to their anniversary party.
Laura didn't sound surprised. Perfect.
Perfect.
Yes, she said calmly.
If your mother wants an audience so badly, give her one.
That night I sat at my kitchen table and started planning something. Not revenge. Just the truth. Delivered at exactly the right moment. First I printed the credit reports.
Then the loan applications.
Then the FTC identity theft report. Then copies of the forged signatures beside my real one. I put them into envelopes. 5 envelopes total. I didn't need the entire room to believe me. Just the right people. The ones whose opinions mattered most. The pastor. My uncle. 2 of my mom's closest church friends. And the town council president. People my mother could never simply dismiss. 2 weeks before the party, I made one more visit. My parents' house. I told Mom I wanted to talk privately. She sat at the kitchen table. Arms crossed. Dad watched TV in the living room. I set my phone on the table. Voice recorder running in my pocket. I'm giving you one last chance, I said. Tell Madison to fix this. Mom rolled her eyes. You're still on that. She stole my identity. She borrowed your credit. She opened $89,000 in accounts. Mom leaned forward. If she did, it's because she was desperate. Not denial. Just justification. You're really okay with this? I asked. Family helps family. My father didn't say a word. I stood up slowly. If this comes out, it will destroy everything. Mom smiled. Cold. Confident.
No one will believe you.
That sentence sat in my chest the entire drive home. No one will believe you. So I decided to make sure the right people would.
3 days before the party, Madison called again.
I finished my speech, she said happily.
It's about loyalty. Mom helped me write it.
Of course she did. Madison laughed.
You're gonna love it. I looked at the stack of evidence on my table.
Oh, I said quietly.
I'm sure I will.
Because what Madison didn't know
was that she was about to read that speech to the worst possible audience. And by the end of the night, the entire town would know exactly what kind of family the Whitmores really were. The Lakeview Ballroom parking lot was already full when I arrived. Black SUVs,
pickup trucks, minivans.
Nearly everyone my parents had known for the past 30 years was inside. The building overlooked a small lake outside Cedar Falls. White lights wrapped around the porch railings, and a banner hung near the entrance.
Happy 40th anniversary, Diane and Robert. I counted tables through the window before walking in. 58 seats.
Every one of them filled.
My mother loved audiences.
Inside, the room buzzed with conversation. Church members, neighbors, family friends.
My Uncle Mark stood near the buffet line. Pastor Reynolds was talking with the mayor near the bar.
And my mother was moving through the room like a politician, shaking hands.
Smiling, laughing, touching shoulders, performing.
My father stood beside her, nodding politely. But something about him looked smaller, like a man shrinking inside his own life. Then I saw Madison, standing near the microphone. Navy blue dress, hair curled, a folded sheet of paper in her hand. The speech. She waved when she saw me.
Claire.
You made it.
Her voice was cheerful, bright, like nothing had happened.
I waved back and took a seat near the back. The envelope sat quietly inside my purse.
5 pieces of paper.
5 truths.
Waiting for the right moment. Dinner lasted nearly an hour. Chicken.
Roasted vegetables. A big sheet cake shaped like the number 40.
People told stories about my parents.
How they'd been the perfect couple. How they'd raised 2 wonderful daughters.
I almost laughed at that one. Finally someone clinked a glass.
To 40 years of marriage. Applause filled the room.
Then my mom stood. Tears in her eyes. The performance of a lifetime.
Thank you all for coming, she said. It means the world to us to have our friends and family here.
She placed a hand on Madison's shoulder.
And now my youngest daughter wants to say a few words.
Of course she did. Madison stepped up to the microphone. The room went quiet.
She unfolded the paper.
And started reading.
Family is built on trust.
Her voice was clear. Confident. The same way it always sounded when she lied.
Our parents raised us to believe that loyalty matters more than anything else.
People nodded.
Our family believes in standing together during hard times.
My mother dabbed her eyes with a napkin. The church ladies smiled warmly.
Madison continued reading. Sometimes one family member may need help more than another.
My stomach tightened.
This was the script. The justification. The speech my parents had helped her write.
Setting up the narrative.
Preparing the town to forgive her before anyone even knew the truth.
She kept going.
And sometimes sacrifice is necessary for the greater good of the family.
Sacrifice. That word echoed in my head.
My credit.
My future. My house. All sacrificed for Madison. Applause started building as she finished. And that was the moment I stood up. At first nobody noticed.
Then chairs scraped softly as people turned. I walked slowly toward the front of the room. Madison looked confused.
Claire, she said into the microphone. My mom's smile vanished. Sit down, she whispered sharply. But I kept walking.
And when I reached the microphone stand, I gently took it from my sister's hand. Madison's right about one thing, I said.
The room went silent.
Family should be built on trust. I placed the first envelope on the table. Unfortunately, that's not the family I grew up in.
My mother stood up instantly.
Claire, stop this.
But it was too late. I held up a piece of paper.
This is my credit report.
People leaned forward.
It shows 4 credit cards, 3 personal loans, and 1 auto loan opened in my name.
I paused.
For a total of $8,000 to $9,000.
A ripple moved through the room. Madison laughed nervously.
Claire's joking. I didn't open those accounts.
Now the room was completely silent. Every face turned toward Madison.
And the signatures on the applications.
I lifted the documents.
Match my sister's handwriting. Madison's smile disappeared.
My mother rushed forward.
She's lying.
I expected that, which is why I pulled out my phone. Actually, I said calmly, I thought you might say that.
I tapped the screen.
And the recording started playing through the ballroom speakers. My mother's voice filled the room.
She borrowed your credit. If she did, it's because she needed it. You're being selfish.
Gasps echoed around the tables. My mother froze. My father looked like someone had knocked the air out of him. And Madison just stared at me, like she couldn't believe I'd actually done it. Pastor Reynolds slowly stood up.
Diane, is this true?
My mother's mouth opened. Closed.
Opened again. It's taken out of context.
Then my Uncle Mark spoke. Madison, he said quietly, did you open those accounts?
The entire room waited.
And in that moment,
Madison made the worst decision she could have made.
She said the quiet part out loud.
I was going to pay it back.
The words hung in the air.
A confession. Unmistakable.
Someone at the back of the room whispered, "Oh my God."
The rest of the evening collapsed quickly.
People stood up.
Conversations erupted.
The mayor quietly left. The church ladies gathered their purses. Pastor Reynolds walked outside with my father. My mother shouted at me. Madison cried.
But something interesting happened in the middle of all that chaos.
People started coming to me. Not them. Me. Asking questions. Looking at the documents. Reading the loan applications. Seeing the signatures. And once the truth landed, it spread faster than any lie my mother had told.
The first fallout came 2 days later.
Madison lost her job.
Apparently her employer didn't appreciate fraud accusations tied to their company. The second came a week later. 2 of the creditors officially removed the fraudulent accounts from my credit report.
Because once they saw the documents, they realized something important. They had been defrauded too.
Then the third domino fell. A detective from the county financial crimes unit called me. One of the lenders had forwarded the case. They wanted statements, evidence, documents. For the first time since this nightmare started, someone in authority actually believed me. Madison called me once after that. Her voice was cold.
You ruined everything.
I sat quietly for a moment.
No, I said.
You did that.
Then I hung up. And I never answered her calls again. My parents' world changed too. Mom stepped down from 3 church committees. People stopped inviting her to brunch. The whispers followed her everywhere. And my dad? He showed up at my apartment one evening, holding an envelope. Inside was a check for $3,800. Side jobs, he said quietly.
It's not much.
I stared at the check. It wouldn't fix the damage.
But it was the first time in my life my father had chosen me over keeping the peace.
I'm sorry, he said. That was all.
But it was enough.
A year has passed now. My credit score is 701. Not perfect. But mine again.
5 of the fraudulent accounts have been removed. The last one is still under investigation. Madison moved to another state.
We haven't spoken since. And my mother? She still insists she did nothing wrong. Some people never change. But here's the strange part. Losing my family's illusion of loyalty actually gave me something better. Freedom.
Because for the first time in my life,
I'm not protecting their secrets anymore.
And if there's one thing I've learned from this whole experience,
it's this. Sometimes the most dangerous place to read a lie is in a room full of people who are about to learn the truth. That's my story.
If you made it this far, thanks for listening.
And I'm curious about something.
If your family tried to cover up something this big,
would you expose them publicly like I did? Or would you have gone straight to the police? Let me know in the comments.
And if you enjoyed this story, subscribe to Reddit Family Secrets. Because trust me, families hide some of the darkest stories of all.